the story of Doge is the big story. The cutting is certainly what people are talking about here at CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference. Ukraine came up. I mean, it came up in the conversation with Elon Musk on the main stage yesterday. Tony Katz today. So good to be with you. Today's show paid for by Hoosiers for Opportunity, Prosperity, and Enterprise, and paid for by Americans for Prosperity, sponsored by PremierArms.com, your firearms experts. You got to check them out. PremierArms.com. Ukraine's been a story, and I know you and I may disagree on some of this. And this isn't about whether or not I like Zelensky. This is about whether or not Russia's an invading force, and it is. And whether or not we should be people who are proactive in defending that. I'm also somebody who doesn't believe they should be a NATO nation. But I don't think that means we should let the people of Ukraine, never mind Zelensky, I don't think we should let the people of Ukraine fall to Putin. So, what's right and what's wrong in these policy prescriptions, and what it is we're hearing from President Trump, referring to Zelensky as a dictator, wanting to get paid back. We hear from the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, that we need to get some of our money back that we spent. Stephen Yates joins us right now of the Heritage Foundation, formerly of the American First Policy Institute, DCI Advisory, has spent time studying world politics, worked as a deputy assistant for then Vice President Dick Cheney. It's good to have you here, sir. You also spent time running Radio Free Asia under the Trump administration. Is Russia the aggressor in this war with Ukraine?
Yes, Russia invaded Ukraine. I think that's plain and simple. I think that when President Trump talks about these things, sometimes he's alluding to policies that I think reasonably can be looked at as goading Russia somewhat into a conflict. There's an argument that can be had about that. I personally don't invest too much time into trying to drill down on the narrative of what got us here, because we've been in it for 3 years, and it's a grinding war of attrition. We don't have the options in 2025 that we would have had in 21 or 22. 3 years of the Biden-Harris administration and, frankly, European policies have made our options less attractive at this point. And really, the issue, I think, first and foremost, accurately defined by President Trump, is stop the killing, figure out how to hold the peace. Part of that has to be, what can you do to get Russia to stop its advance? Because right now it's a slow, grinding advance. There isn't an option right now to continue doing what the Biden administration did and what Western Europe has wanted that allows us to keep Ukraine free, to slow down the drawdown of capabilities and money. And I do think, just to button it up on the war of words, Zelensky needs Trump. If you're under siege for 3 years grinding away and the Russians aren't stopping, you need Trump. Whether you like it or not about the name calling, you should show some discipline and respect back to the person that you need. And I thought it was amazing to see Secretary Rubio, J.D. Vance, and everyone all unified. I served in the White House at a time when a president, vice president, Secretary of State, and Secretary of Defense were not all on the same page. They're in unison about this, and serious, and dug in, and deployed on it. So I think it should be a wake-up call. But yes, we're resetting the table to try to get to something different that hopefully is a durable peace.
Now, to make sure everybody understands, there's no doubt that Ukraine mounted at the beginning 3 years ago a defense that people were not prepared for. We also saw that the Russian military is exactly what you kind of suspected the Russian military was, which is a big hot pile of mess. But even historically speaking, the Russians are not a good invading force. The Russians are a good holding force and throwing bodies at you till you simply can't keep up with the bodies being thrown at you. That's how the Russians operate and maneuver. And no, there is no mathematics that says that the Ukrainians can withhold an onslaught over time. And so this is, when you talk about what President Trump sees, this is what he is trying to stop. In order for that to happen, you have to create a deal with Russia. Stephen Yates, is there any deal with Russia that doesn't involve Ukraine having to give up land? And is that Neville Chamberlain-esque appeasement?
It's not Neville Chamberlain-esque appeasement. To be honest, I don't know what deal can be made and held. But you don't know until you try to find out what the contours of that are. President Trump hasn't signed, sealed, and delivered anything yet. This is early rounds of assessing where those things are. We've spent 3 years hearing pretty clearly what the Zelensky and Ukraine side of this is.
Right.
That's appropriate. They were invaded. They're the victim. But if you're going to have a durable peace, you have to find a way to halt the onslaught. And so the team has gone out. We have General Kellogg in Ukraine talking with Zelensky now, but you had people go and listen to the Russians to kind of take a temperature. Where are we? What might be possible? And report back to the president. And so this is the early stages of figuring out what that might be. I do think that if you find a way to stop the aggression, hold the peace, help finance the recovery out of the resources they have or otherwise bring that coalition together, and maybe dream of all dreams, Europeans are the ones that finally step in and help preserve that peace. I don't think that we can or want to have American troops surge in to do that.
Gosh, no.
And frankly, $170 billion is a lot of money to a lot of normal, sensible Americans, and we don't know where all that went. So I don't want that spigot going on without being doged. But the Europeans can afford to pay more and do more. So if we negotiate the sort of slow down to stop of the invasion, we're in an imperfect place, but there's room for others to do more.
Stephen Yates of the Heritage Foundation joins me right now. While I still have literally 60 seconds, let's call it 45 seconds. You are an expert in this field. Is there any mathematics that says to you a deal can be made without Ukraine giving up land?
No.
Yes or no?
No. Well, especially if you count Crimea as having been taken 10 years ago. And so this is
that
not
under
in the
Barack
cards.
Obama, by the way.
Correct. And the international community made a solemn pact. If you give up the world's ultimate weapons, nuclear weapons, we will guarantee your sovereignty. And it failed. So the new world order, the global vision, failed under Barack Obama. We are here where we are now.
Stephen Yates, Heritage Foundation. Always good to talk to you. Always good to see you.
With you, Tony.
Find everything at TonyKatz.com. More is coming up. This is Tony Katz Today.